Hi there, welcome to Premier Presents. I'm Sean Hanks, President of Premier Speakers Bureau. We have a good friend and guest with us, Mark. Good afternoon, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Sean. It's great to be here.
Mark is, you probably recognize him first and foremost as former NBA center for the Utah Jazz. Mark is a very active speaker as well. It has a very interesting history, which he can get into, and he often does when he speaks, starting as an auto parts salesman. Is that correct?
Auto mechanic, yes.
Auto mechanic, who then, that's a very interesting path to get into the NBA from there, but great story. Specifically, I want to focus on safety for the purposes of this conversation. Mark, you speak on leadership, but teamwork in particular in the safety space. How does that connect, and what does that mean to you?
Well, thanks, Sean. I do a lot of work in the safety industry, and my presentation is called The 4 Commitments of a Winning Team. And it's focused on getting rid of that internal competition that plagues most businesses, and specifically in safety, the kind of the infighting that goes on between those guys out in the field. I eliminate that through my presentation.
Competition between teams.
Competition, right. Yeah. So getting rid of that internal competition. And specifically how I do that is that I talk about things like understanding what you do well, focusing on that one thing that you're great at, that one job that you need to be doing day after day. Execution of that job, how important that is to the role of the team and the safety of the team. And then I get a little deeper into it with focusing on things like making people look good. Focusing on making the other person look good is what's going to make you look good. And in safety, that's so important, as well as protecting others, protecting each other's back. One of the key things I did on the basketball court was I protected the paint, that painted area on the floor under the basket. Sure. And my teammates could go out and try and steal the basketball because they knew I had their back. They knew they could count on me. And what I found in the utility industry specifically is that 70% of all workplace accidents occur while someone else is in close proximity. Wow. So most accidents occur while someone else is standing right there. Well, why aren't they saying, hey, wait a minute, let's check this job site one more time before we dig in? Sure. And so this teamwork theme has worked well in the safety industry, and I've, as well as kind of my blue-collar beginnings, relates well to the guys out in the field. So I've done programs for the iron workers, the steels workers, many utility companies, large construction companies, the Gas Association, and it's been a pretty good opportunity for me. Sure. and it's related well to those people, and I get great reviews from the workers and the groups that I work with in the safety industry, because it is so relatable, and it's a different message. It's not the standard workers message that a lot of them hear. So I come in from a unique perspective, from an NBA perspective, yet the message hits home with those guys out there in the field who know that they need to do a better job of taking care of their buddies at work. Wow.
Now, you mentioned the blue collar aspect of it, and I mentioned it in the intro. You have a very unique entry into the NBA. It's not the typical one that you hear. Tell us just quickly about how you went from where you started to the NBA.
Well, I didn't play much basketball in high school. I sat on the end of the bench.
No kidding.
And so at the end of my high school career, I didn't think there was much future for me in the game of basketball. Yeah. My father was a marine diesel mechanic and vocational educator, and I went into vocational ed. I went to trade school for a year and learned to be an auto mechanic. Wow. And I was working as a 7'4", 21-year-old auto mechanic in Southern California when a junior college coach happened to come around the corner of this busy intersection where I was working and said, wow, who's that big tall guy there? Sure. And came in and started talking to me about playing basketball. Well, he eventually convinced me to go back to junior college by teaching me some unique things that I didn't know about the game of basketball, specifically as it relates to being a big guy. And so I went back to junior college for 2 years with him. He taught me how to play the big man game of basketball. Yeah. And then I went to UCLA for 2 years, and then I ended up going to the Utah Jazz and spending 12 years with the Jazz and became an all-star. And the reason I was successful is that I followed these 4 principles that I talk about in my presentation. Sure. And a lot of it has to do with those people that told me what I needed to do at certain points in my life. Yeah. That really made the difference for me. Those people that were willing to stand alongside of me and show me exactly what I needed to do. And so my job now as a speaker to tell my audience what they need to do.
Well, it's such a fun, interesting story. We all know the NBA portion of your life and career, but to hear the background, and it makes for an interesting story, and it conveys those 4 truths that you mentioned are really powerful as well. So our commitment is always to keep these fairly brief so you guys can quickly learn about Mark and his skills and abilities, but would challenge you, you can click the link below this video to learn more information about Mark, specifically his speech topics, watch some video, and maybe even see some organizations to which he's spoken in the past. Mark, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Sean.
Pleasure to see you, and thanks a lot. We'll see you again soon on Premier Presents. Thank you.